Hello and welcome to another week of progress on the Foundation. So this past week there's been a lot of design work going on. There was some great feedback, great discussion going on about the groups of interest. I'm working really hard to try and make sure that I really deliver the capability to represent these groups of interest in the game. As I got thinking about some of this from the last bit of conversation, some concerns came up about there being too many groups. And I kind of threw out a few basic ideas on how to combat that. The major thought that I threw out is that you could edit the number of groups that were in the game. When I got thinking about this, it wasn't the best approach. It would be good for all of the groups to be in the game. We might be able to make some customizable options to select or disable groups, but for the base game experience, you shouldn't have to configure which groups are there. It should just be the Foundation universe. But that still leaves the problem of there being too many groups. So when I got thinking about it, I think that what's the best approach, it's a little difficult to do at this moment, but we can have it so that the groups are discovered over time and that your roster of groups that you're dealing with grows as you complete different milestones in the game and enlarge in your facility. So the game might start out with just the Global Occult Coalition, but as you go on, different groups will pop up. Maybe you finish getting a base set up and the Serpent's Hand shows up and tries to raid it. Over time, these groups will appear and eventually you'll have all of the groups on your roster that you have to deal with. This will allow new players or players that haven't been playing the game for a while to get used to and warm up to all the different groups and not be overwhelmed with the sheer mass of excellent content that there is. So in that there was a little bit of redesign I had to do with the data because some groups are going to move to an event generating approach. I talked about this with Prometheus and I'm going to butcher that name, but Alexieva? Alexieva. It's a hard one. Somebody that actually knows how you say that should teach us all how to pronounce it or something. So with those two groups, I proposed that they could just generate events on the map that you have to respond to before another group responds to, or else you miss out on those resources or SCPs or whatever occurs at that event. And as I got thinking about this, I realized that quite a few of the groups of interest, and I addressed this partially in one of my blog posts, they don't have a lot of interaction with the Foundation as far as the wiki is concerned. They could be a whole lot more, but for the most part they kind of keep to themselves and don't have much interaction besides the Foundation running into evidence of their existence every once in a while. So I'm playing around with the idea of making several different groups of interest just into an event generating approach. On the blog I proposed removing some completely as groups. I didn't quite like that, and for a reason that I'll show you here. But it just ended up making them so distant from the game and not really a part of it, and I wanted them to still be a part of it. And having them generate random events around the globe allows them to still be part of the game, but not be a full group that you have to interact with and keep track of. However, with the modding that I have available, anybody can easily make them into a full group at any point in time if they want to. This week there was also a major redesign of the group of interest or external affairs report tab, as you can see over here. So I had the idea that why not reuse my tab concept and make some horizontal tabs and split it apart into pieces there. So you can see that currently there are 7 tabs. And this particular group, the Alexiel, yeah, that's probably pretty close to the right pronunciation, probably. That group is an event generating group. They're not a full group of interest, at least that's my plan right now, is to just implement them as event generating. And so 4 of the tabs are grayed out for this group. However, you can see that recent activity is there, and that will list all the different events that were generated in the order they get generated. There's also the color picker, so you'll be able to set the colors for what those events look like when they appear on the map. And also, and this thing I think is going to be pretty exciting, and it's why I wanted to keep all of the groups here, at least to some extent, and that is this documentation tab. So with this documentation tab, I think it's pretty cool, is that on the wiki there's a whole, I don't know, library full of tells that people have written, stories that aren't actual wiki or not actual SCP articles. And I thought it would be really cool to have those in the game to some extent. And originally I was just going to have one massive library tab. But then I thought about, well, what if we have that as the player responds to events, infiltrates the group, it unlocks tells that appear here on this recovered documentation tab. And these tells will appear and you can read them. So if we see these articles here, there's 2 articles right now that I have posted for Lexulava. Hey, that actually somewhat sounded right. Okay, so if I click them here, it'll pop up with the document viewer, and this is super like alpha, so if your eyes just like puked on your keyboard because this looks so bad, yeah, I know it's got some work to go. Be sure to throw me lots of feedback on how you think this stuff should look and be presented. And when you're done, just close it, go on your way. Just to show you here, here's a regular group. It has all 7 tabs. Not all 7 tabs do anything yet. That's some of the things that have been going this week. Diving much deeper into code and actual activity of the groups of interest next week. I just had a lot of design and concerns I had to address this week before I continued. I didn't want to set off on the wrong foot, so I had that to do, but there you go. Throw the feedback at me, and I'll see you next week.